Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to talk about some of the most famous psychopaths in history. These individuals have made headlines for their heinous crimes and shocking behavior, and they continue to fascinate us today. As always, you'll be getting a bonus towards the end of the video, and today's will be something completely unexpected and not fully understood about psychopathy. So, stay tuned until the end. Welcome to Wellness Lenses, where we talk about mental health and the journey to self-development. Without further ado, let's dive in. Our first psychopath is Ted Bundy. Bundy was a notorious serial killer who murdered at least 30 young women and girls in the 1970s. He was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, and was raised by his grandparents in Philadelphia. Bundy was known for his charm and good looks, which he used to lure his victims. Bundy's killing spree began in Washington in 1974, when he abducted and murdered a young woman named Linda Ann Healy. Over the next few years, he continued to abduct and murder young women in several states, including Utah, Colorado, and Florida. Bundy's victims ranged in age from 12 to 26 years old, and many of them had long brown hair, which he seemed to prefer. Bundy's killing spree came to an end in 1978 when he was arrested for the kidnapping of Carol DeRanch, a young woman who managed to escape from his car. Bundy was eventually linked to several murders through physical evidence and witness testimony. He was convicted and sentenced to death in Florida in 1979. Despite his conviction, Bundy maintained his innocence for years, and he became known for his charisma and charm during his high-profile trial. He even acted as his own lawyer during part of the trial. Bundy was eventually executed in Florida's electric chair on January 24, 1989. Bundy's case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films. He remains one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, and his story continues to fascinate and terrify people to this day. Ted Bundy was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD, by mental health professionals who evaluated him during his trial. ASPD is a disorder characterized by a pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others, as well as a lack of empathy and remorse. While ASPD is not exactly the same as psychopathy, the two are closely related and share many of the same traits. Therefore, it is fair to say that Ted Bundy was considered to be a psychopath by many experts in the field. Our next psychopath is Charles Manson. Manson was a cult leader who was responsible for the deaths of 9 people in the late 1960s, including actress Sharon Tate. He was known for his hypnotic personality and his ability to manipulate his followers, whom he called the Manson family. Born in 1934 in Ohio, Manson was a troubled youth who spent much of his early life in and out of juvenile detention centers and prisons. He became involved in various criminal activities, including armed robbery and pimping, before eventually turning to a life of cult leadership. Manson founded the Manson family, a group of young people who followed his teachings and believed he was a messiah figure. He convinced his followers to commit a series of brutal murders in August 1969, which shocked the world and brought him infamy. The most notorious of the Manson family murders took place on August 9, 1969, when Manson ordered 4 of his followers to break into the home of actress Sharon Tate and murder everyone inside. Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, was among the victims. The following night, Manson ordered his followers to kill again, this time at the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Manson and several of his followers were eventually arrested and charged with the murders. He was found guilty of multiple counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death, though his sentence was later commuted to life in prison when California abolished the death penalty. Manson died in prison in 2017 at the age of 83. Despite his death, his crimes and the influence he had over his followers continued to be the subject of fascination and study. Charles Manson was diagnosed with various psychiatric conditions throughout his life. During his time in prison, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and paranoid personality disorder, among other conditions. However, it is important to note that Manson's diagnosis was not always consistent, and he was known to manipulate psychiatrists and mental health professionals during his evaluations. Additionally, there is debate among experts regarding Manson's true diagnosis and whether he truly had a mental illness or if his behavior was the result of other factors, such as drug use and childhood trauma. Charles Manson was considered a psychopath due to his extreme behavior, which included a lack of empathy for others, a tendency to manipulate and exploit those around him, and a disregard for societal norms and rules. Manson displayed a total lack of remorse for his actions, which is another characteristic often associated with psychopathy. Before we move on to the next famous criminal, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content about self-development and mental health. It really helps our channel, and your kindness will go a long way. Next up, David Koresh, whose real name was Vernon Wayne Howell, and who was the leader of the Branch Davidians, a religious group that was based near Waco, Texas, in the 1990s. He was born in 1959 in Houston, Texas, and grew up in a dysfunctional family with a history of abuse and neglect. Koresh joined the Branch Davidians in the early 1980s and eventually became their leader. He claimed to be a messiah and a prophet, and his followers believed that he could communicate directly with God. Koresh preached a blend of Christianity, Judaism, and apocalypticism, and he advocated for strict discipline and celibacy among his followers. In 1993, the Branch Davidian compound came under siege by the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or ATF, after allegations of child abuse, sexual assault, and illegal weapons possession. The standoff lasted for 51 days and ended with a deadly fire that killed Koresh and 75 other members of the group, including 25 children. Koresh was described as a charismatic leader who had a great deal of influence over his followers. He was also known for his apocalyptic teachings and his belief in an imminent end of the world. Some experts have suggested that Koresh exhibited traits of narcissism, paranoia, and delusion, which are all common among psychopaths. David Koresh was never officially diagnosed with any psychiatric conditions. However, many experts have suggested that he may have exhibited traits consistent with narcissistic personality disorder or delusional disorder. Additionally, some have speculated that he may have suffered from bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, but there is no concrete evidence to support these claims. It is important to note that diagnosing someone with a psychiatric condition posthumously is not always possible or accurate. David Koresh's behavior has been analyzed by many experts. Some have suggested that he displayed traits commonly associated with psychopathy, such as manipulation, lack of empathy, and grandiosity. However, remember that making a diagnosis of psychopathy or any other personality disorder requires a comprehensive evaluation and assessment by a qualified mental health professional, which was not conducted on David Koresh during his lifetime. Next, we have Bernie Madoff. He was an American financier and former stockbroker who was convicted in 2009 of perpetuating one of the largest financial frauds in history. Madoff admitted to running a Ponzi scheme that defrauded thousands of investors out of billions of dollars over the course of several decades. Madoff was born in Queens, New York in 1938 and grew up in a middle-class Jewish family. He began his career as a lifeguard and later became a stockbroker, eventually founding his own firm, Bernie L. Madoff Investment Securities LLC, in 1960. Madoff's Ponzi scheme was uncovered in 2008 when the financial crisis hit and investors began to request their money back. Madoff was unable to provide the funds and ultimately confessed to his crimes. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison in order to pay restitution of over $17 billion. Madoff's behavior has been described as psychopathic by some experts. He exhibited a lack of empathy for his victims, manipulating and exploiting them for his own financial gain. He also displayed grandiosity, convincing investors that he had a special investing strategy that allowed him to generate consistently high returns. Additionally, he engaged in deception, lying to investors and regulators about the true nature of his investment activities. Before we sign off, here is the promise bonus. It is an unexpected fact about psychopathy. Research has found that psychopaths may have an impaired sense of smell. In a study, psychopaths were found to have difficulty identifying common odors like coffee, orange, and leather, compared to non-psychopathic individuals. This may be related to the fact that the olfactory bulb, which is responsible for processing smell, is connected to the areas of the brain that are involved in emotional processing and empathy. So, a reduced ability to smell may be linked to a reduced ability to experience and understand emotions. However, more research is needed to fully understand this connection. And that's a wrap. We've just taken a look at a few of the most infamous psychopaths to ever walk the earth. From Ted Bundy to Bernie Madoff, these individuals have certainly captured our attention over the years. But let's not forget, as disturbing as their actions were, they also remind us of the darker side of human nature. It's important to stay aware of the signs of psychopathy and to seek help if you or someone you know is exhibiting these traits. What do you guys think about this topic? Have you ever encountered someone who you suspect might be a psychopath? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any of our upcoming content. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video.